We'll mechanically take them down with a mechanical harvester.
Wow.
We will harvest the tops for fertilizer because it's a very high nitrogen fertilizer. We'll harvest the bark for animal feed because it's a high protein animal feed, and we'll harvest the rest of the tree for both lumber and chips. When we first started growing these...
So you mean we don't have to get chemicals from China
we do not have to
feed our animals?
Or we don't have to get nitrogen fertilizers from Saudi Arabia, which is what we're doing today.
Exactly.
Right. So
what's in front of us right here?
These are pieces of albizia. We wanted to show that albizia is actually something that is a relatively strong wood. People have always told me, oh, you can't use that, it's garbage, it can't be used for anything, right? This thing has been used...
They told me I couldn't be used for anything either.
This is obviously a ramp that we use for moving equipment up and down. We've used it for 10 years, right? This is a 2x4. I would defy you to do that with a standard 2x4, all right? And yet this is a piece of albizia that we treated with a very environmentally friendly process that we developed here, all right? So we're growing trees in a sustainable way for both energy and lumber. We're growing oil palm, which is this, in order to produce our own fuel, so that as we do all this harvesting, we produce all the diesel fuel that we need.
Can you grow the oil palm successfully on Kauai, Absolutely. Just like the trees?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And using the same nitrogen source. All right. This is another tree that we don't know yet whether it will work, but we're constantly testing things. This is called Copifera. It's an oil tree out of South America, and we're going to see whether that works.
Is that an oil tree or another bark and lumber tree?
You actually tap it to get the oil out of it. It's an oil tree. Yeah. This is another timber tree that we're starting to grow much more of. It's called blue marble. It's a very fast-growing tree. It has marvelous wood characteristics, and it grows real well in the shade. So when we get trees that we take out, and we've got other trees that are still there, we can plant that in there. It'll go right up through them. So it's a nice one to add.
Terrific.
All right. This is cocoa.
Ah,
we're growing our own chocolate.
If we could do the macadamia nuts and the cocoa, we'd be in business, right?
We're doing mac nuts, we're doing cocoa, and we're doing hops, because a man can't live without beer. All right.
All right. That's right. All right.
So
I knew we were going to get along.
This is the exciting one. This is charcoal.
See, I'm useful.
Charcoal.
I can tip that right over.
Charcoal is a form of carbon that does not break down in the soil. If you make charcoal and you then stick it in the soil, that charcoal will still be there maybe 1,000 years from now. We believe that you can take chips, biomass chips, green waste, whatever, wood chips, produce charcoal, take the gases that come off during that process, and use them to make electricity and to make ammonia. And then take the ammonia and mixing it with fossil fuel exhaust, end up with fertilizers that go right back in the charcoal, and you end up with a soil amendment. That soil amendment in tropical soils will increase the productivity of those soils by 200 or 300%.
Wow.
And it is a permanent increase. So we believe that you can ramp this up, and as you do so, you're permanently sequestering carbon in the ground. You're reducing the carbon levels in the atmosphere. You're affecting the global warming problem, which is obviously affecting us all. And at the same time, it's a profitable venture. It's an economically viable venture.
So what you're saying, you can go from root to branch literally and use everything.
Absolutely. We're talking about producing enough oil on our own project to produce everything that we need, and perhaps again as much biodiesel as we need that we could sell to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Produce all of our own energy, produce enough energy to supply 10% of the energy requirements of the island in terms of electricity, and all of the lumber it would need on island, and much of some of the other products that it might need on island, with no inputs. So we're just trying to get sustainable.
So what you're saying here is that with a sustained effort, no pun intended, that we can start backing down this energy dependency situation we're in right now.
Absolutely, and if we added a few solar concentrators, if we added a little wind power, if we added a few other things that I think are viable,
we can start pushing that rock back up the hill.
Little hydro. We just put in a hydro plant, about 125 kilowatts. It'll run our sawmill. It'll run all of the processing for all the various things we're growing.
How many years do the trees grow before you think you're ready to start putting this into a cycle?
We'll be harvesting them for energy in 3 years from the time they're stuck in the ground, right?
So are these, how old are these? These are just about ready?
3 years old, yeah. We'll be harvesting them for lumber starting in about 3 weeks. We got the finish up on this hydro plant we're doing right now, and as soon as that's done, they're all anxious and chomping at the bit to get going with the sawmill and produce more lumber. We're going to start producing a lot of this lumber, which is really nice for outdoor uses, and we're going to produce some of this deglupto, which is this mahogany type lumber right here. We're going to produce quite a bit of that this year, and we'll ramp up from there.
Would this lumber be for building houses as well?
Absolutely. This again, this is basically a 2x4. This weak lumber that has no use, right, is stronger than Douglas fir when you're holding it vertically, when you're talking about vertical loads. This is an incredible, great building material.
Do you think it would be possible to grow enough, not necessarily on Kauai, but maybe even statewide, that we could start making a dent in the importing of lumber for housing?
You could easily grow enough on Kauai to take care of the lumber markets in Hawaii, easily. Now, it would take a lot of land, all right? But,
sure.
There's no doubt, and it would make more sense, that you could grow on each island.
Well, we had plantations here before, didn't we? We had pineapple, we've had sugarcane that took up hundreds, thousands of acres. So having large acreage devoted to agricultural and sustainable use that you're talking about for energy is not something new to the islands.
We actually took over lands that came out of sugar. And we took over a lot of lands that were what you'd call wet areas, that is non-irrigated areas, because one of the best uses you could put them to is timber. And then we step from there into how do we make that an energy production as well, and how do we expand it into other uses as well.
Is there land, particular land that's good for the growth of these trees, or can they grow anywhere?
They need a certain amount of moisture, and they need they can't grow above a certain elevation. But for the most part, they'll grow all over these islands. Yeah, they're very aggressive, and I'm really one of those show me people, right? This thing is going to be big, and it would be really nice to get some federal.
Well, I've been talking to Chairman Peterson, Collin Peterson, the egg chairman, for those who don't know who we're talking about, and I know he's interested in this, and we're going to try and follow through on the federal side for you.
He's a neat guy.
Great,
I just found him.
Send him your regards.
Thank you.
Thanks again.